Welcome to Writers Are the Best Weirdos, the podcast starring me, Julia Roberts. I am a creativity coach, speaker, writer, and a weirdo. Aren't you? We're going to answer a lot of questions about pubbing and promoting and marketing your books, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, we are here to welcome Victoria Wilson Crane. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her and we'll get back to her and you can hear her lovely accent, which is why she got the booking. She is an advanced grief recovery specialist. Dr. Victoria Wilson Crane supports children and adults grieving life losses. Her memoir and self-help book, 16 Days, published in January 22, provides advice for those supporting others in shock and grief following a sudden death. Educational innovator and leader, Vic used her academic writing skills and love of words as therapy as she faced significant bereavements in 2020. Her award-winning memoir, 16 Days, helps people know what to say when someone dies, which is hard. Vic lives in West Lancashire, England, with her author husband, Roger, and they share their life and sense of humor with their dance-crazy daughter, Holly Mae, and their exuberant, unique yet typically bonkers flat-coated retriever, Ted Hastings. So, hello, Victoria, and welcome.
Thank you for that welcome.
And so, who's Ted Hastings? Who's he named for?
You said Hastings. It might make more sense if you have listeners over on our side of the world, but there's a TV series called Line of Duty. And,
okay.
It's an anti-corruption unit in the police.
Okay.
And Ted Hastings was a character in there, and we were watching that when Ted arrived with us. So
so we're all gonna have to look for our BBC Ted Hastings. What's it called? Yeah. What's the name of the show?
Line of Duty.
Line of Duty. Okay. We all love BBC. And I'm gonna go back to something you said in your thing. Well, two things actually. One was that the writing was therapy. And I think that's a really big, I think a lot of us feel that for different reasons, not even like a big grief or loss, but just even those everyday griefs and losses that you can't find your keys, or you're sick of this, or you don't know why that's happening. I mean, for me, I write, well, every day going on 20 years. In order to going on 30 years, I think I'm pretending I'm young. But, just to sort those feelings and to figure out what I need, or to clarify who I am that day or what I need. So tell me a little bit about your process in that regard, the healing process.
Yeah, definitely. So as you said, my niece died suddenly in January 2020. She had a very short illness. It was pre-COVID, but it was a kind of viral illness that she had. And within a number of days, unfortunately, she died. She's only 22, very unexpected. And yeah, it just completely floored me, really, and us as a family. How do you kind of deal with that? And actually, it's something that came from my dad years ago. Whenever I was feeling frustrated or wanted to get my message across or wanted to explain things, he always used to encourage me and my sister to write things down. So I've kind of carried that through myself, and I don't think I'm as committed as you in terms of every single day. But
for me, it's like morning pages, the Julia Cameron's thing of morning pages. And so it's a little bit different. It is really a catalog of what's going on that day and what you need. So it's not the same drawn to the page by a really compulsive thing like grief, or it's more just spending time with yourself so that you have clarity. But so you went to the page, and how did that help you?
Yeah, so and it started probably a few months after.
Such a horrible loss.
Yeah. It was, and it still is.
I just mean at that age, and such a promising part of life, and just so sudden. Yeah, it is.
Definitely. So it was a way for me to just kind of record it for me, for nobody else, and to try and process what had happened, because anybody who's and there'll be many people out there who are listening who've experienced a death. You have got a lot of things to do within quite a short period of time before a funeral, and there may be memorial service or whatever it is you're doing to kind of commemorate that person. And lots of things happened, and lots of what I thought were quite unusual things happened. I think they're probably things that people can identify with, but it's so out of the norm. You know, you don't spend time thinking about hymns to sing at a service, or verses to read, or organising how people are going to get from one venue to another. You don't do that very often as part of life, or I don't in my work, my working life certainly. So it was just a way really to get it all out of my head, because it was all kind of going around in my head. And I talk a lot in the book how I was how I've described as being on a little bit of an outer circle of grief. I wasn't right at the epicenter. I was very close to my niece, but she had, you know, 2 sets of parents, 2 brothers, grandparents, a boyfriend, people who were in my perception were kind of closer to her than I was. So I was
had a greater loss, maybe, or just more of an everyday loss, or more expectation of her life intertwining with their lives. It isn't that you weren't close to her, but it was just that it's the loss, like what you were expecting, the change in expectation. But you mentioned your book is called 16 Days. What does that imply?
Yeah, it's the 16 days between her death and the funeral, basically.
Wow. So that's how long it takes, 16 days?
Yeah, and actually, I think during COVID times, people in our part of the world anyway have experienced an even longer period. I think traditionally it might be a week or something in a kind of Christian Church of England type approach. I know other religions do things more quickly as well.
Jewish people within a day,
yeah, or don't, you know, it's the sun setting twice, and trying to ensure that. I think in countries where the temperature is hotter as well, there's a challenge to try and complete things more quickly, just for very practical reasons. But in our part of the world,
in the Jewish tradition, they're buried within 24 hours.
Yeah.
But the whatever memorial service could be
Longer.
Be later. But the Shiva starts immediately, and that's really to comfort the widow, or the family.
Yeah, definitely.
That's hard. I'm so sorry, but it came to be something of value to you, or I love that you've turned it to be something of value to others.
Yeah. So the whole point really was a bit of a cathartic reading of what had happened, and then we were in lockdown periods during that time. So I was very busy work-wise, but not short of something to do, but certainly not socializing in the same way that I had been before. So I joined an online writing program, and it had come out of some coaching I'd had with a coach called Michael Heppel. And he said to me, I wanted to improve my writing for work. And he said, why don't you join my Write That Book program? And I said, I don't want to write a book. And he said, but it'll help you with your writing anyway. Come along and see. Anyway, sure enough, I did. And I got swept along with it, I guess. And decided that, I wanted to write this book. And then, rather than it just being purely a memoir, I've written some advice at the end of each chapter, which kind of summarizes the types of experiences I was having. So there are some tips for if you're dealing with people who really want to talk about the situation, or perhaps if people don't want to talk about the situation, how you can support them, or what can you do to support practically somebody who's grieving, those kinds of things. And it's only very simple stuff, and it's stuff that we all know, but it's stuff that kind of you don't know you need to know.
It flies out of your head too. Yeah. Like when you're just grieving, you don't necessarily behave as decently as you would like. You don't have you have needs, so the service could just fall out of your mindset. But okay, but the other thing I wanted to mention, I read in your little bio there, award-winning. And what is that? And so tell me how that happened and what's going on with that.
Yeah, so I think
I want awards, right? Yeah. I want awards. So this is
who doesn't want some more recognition and adulation for what it's doing? Of course. And as I say, something that started out as not even writing a book to writing an award-winning book is quite feels
right.
Good.
Yeah, not everybody. So go ahead. How does that come to be?
Yeah, and it came out of thinking about the marketing of the book, because I did a lot of the very basic things of kind of build up a tribe of people who are going to buy the book and tell them in advance before it's coming out, and tell them what's coming, so that people are waiting, so they're buying it when it comes out. But then when it's out,
you say that like it's nothing. A lot of people don't manage that, because especially when you're writing, you can fall into this thing where that's just so tunnel vision. You're not doing anything like building a group or making sure that people are aware of where you are, what's going on. I have several things going on that nobody knows about. So it's not small that you did that at all. And then what happened? It came out and
The book came out, and there's so much you can do around the book coming out. So I had lots of little videos of me, because I packaged the book with tissue paper and send things with it. I won't spoil the secret, but things that go with the book that are quite poignant, and a nice letter and all that kind of thing. But there's only so many times you can say to people, I've written a book. Do you know I've written a book? I've written a book. I've written a book. You need more to be able to say about it. So being here with you
I've
today.
written a book. I heard read the book. I've written a book. I've written a book. You can't say that. Like, you can't post that every 3 days on
No,
Insta.
exactly.
It's not going to work.
That wears quite thin. It wears quite thin. So the conversation we're having today, I will obviously share this because I'm talking about the book, and that's a different story to I've written a book. That's another example. But the awards came from the idea that well, maybe if other people recognise the book and other people have something to say about the book, then maybe that gives me something else to talk about. So there are loads of organisations online that will read your book and give you feedback. So you can get kind of reviews, and obviously you can then take excerpts of those reviews, and whatever it is you want to take from what they say, you can help. And then the awards is just competitions. So the couple of awards that I've entered and got far with, and I've still got a few irons in the fire at the moment as well. There's the Literary Titan Award, and that's a monthly award. And there's a silver award or a gold award, and I was fortunate enough that I got a gold award in the Literary Titan. I entered something called the Firebird Award, and again, that's a monthly award. And that was the first one that I entered, and I liked it because the competition fee, and there's usually a fee attached, these things aren't free. The competition fee all goes towards a charity helping women who are in a shelter. So that felt a little bit less kind of corporate than me putting my money
paying
towards
for an award, which you can't pay for the award, but just paying, you know what I mean? It feels a little quid pro quo, you wonder. But
yeah, exactly.
Not necessarily though. I mean, if you still have to be chosen from however many thousands of people entered that award. And for that award that month.
And if you think about the fee as your kind of marketing fee, you could be doing flyers with that fee, you could be doing Facebook ads with that fee, you could be doing paid interviews with that fee. And I chose to put that money towards competitions. I entered something called a Page Turner Award in the UK. And that was actually, it wasn't for a particular category, it was best book. And I got through to the second round of that, so the kind of finalist round, and then the long list, which again, you get a little seal, you get a badge to prove you've done that. There's collateral
and
online.
Long list is not nothing. No. I have short story writers who've gotten long listed and feel, it's really something because of the number of entries that they have.
But one quite important thing is with many of these competitions, there will be niche categories. So it was probably a mistake to go for a best book award, because then you're in amongst many, many people. But if you go for awards where they've got a category, so for me it would be memoirs, but again, that's quite broad. But there are quite a lot of book awards that talk about grief. There's book awards for death and dying, which I know sounds really morbid. But if you think about those,
people need writings on those topics, and so that they highlight them and bring them to the fore is a really good thing. Sure. Right? People need advice. I mean, that's like the definition of when you're flummoxed and need somebody else's voice for a minute, right? On
those sorts of topics. So I would recommend anybody who's listening who's thinking, useful to think about where my book might go. Think about those sort of niche categories, because nobody knows who you're up against. I don't know how many competed with me to get to that long list, and nobody need ever know.
No, and it doesn't factor into how valuable that award is in anybody's reading of it.
But it just gives you another, as I say, rather than just saying, remember 3 weeks ago I told you I'd written a book, I've still written that book is still available on Amazon.
My book is still available on Amazon.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got something else to say about it. So I think it's
that could be a funny ad campaign. By the way, I've still written that book.
By the way, you still
remember me? I'm the one who wrote a book. It's still available.
It's still around. But yeah, that's what I've kind of used it for. And you mentioned my husband in the bio, and just as a quick kind of advert for him, he's won many more awards than I have actually.
Your husband Roger?
Yeah, he's done the same sort of thing, and he's won. And his is a fiction book. He's written a fictional memoir, and he's won awards. But rather than going in for just fiction, he's gone for kind of comedy or humour or those kind of categories, which have helped him find his niche.
Uh-huh.
One other thing
How
I
did you
did,
find these? How did you find these award listings? Where did you look for? Like,
yeah. Um,
are they mostly British or are they mostly worldwide? Or
many of them are over in the States and in North America.
okay,
But there are some
they just like how you spelled color. That's why you won.
that's why I won. Yeah.
Oh, now I figured it out.
No, it's true. But no, it's a simple Google search for book awards brings you a
Oh yeah.
list. There's also an organisation, and I can send this to people, Book Award Pro, and you can register with them. And every other day, every third day, I get an email from them telling me that my book could be entered in the blah 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 different awards.
Oh,
And
so it's like a matchmaker?
yeah, like a matchmaking.
Very nice.
And I
And that's
think
free or not free?
it
Free
is
or
free. It is free. There
okay.
is a paid service, and
Right.
through the
Most
paid
of them have
service,
like 2 levels. Yeah.
yeah, you can actually enter the award through the paid service, or you can do it as I've done, a free, and it just alerts you to what they are, and then you can go and find them yourself. What I also did was I looked at who had won the awards that I'd won last year, and looked
Oh.
where they'd entered, because most people list those awards on their Amazon profile.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at who'd won the Firebird Award, for example, in the death and dying category previously, and looked at what other competitions they'd entered. So it's quite easy to find.
Oh,
They're not that
yeah.
hidden. Yeah, they're not that hidden.
Okay. Okay. But I mean, there's a certain amount of dedication that you've shown.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, there's so many things to which one can pay attention. And
Yeah.
so you're sitting in your little room and you're thinking, my book is written. What do I want? And award winning could be what you want. Best selling people want. And that's much more achievable these days than it was when the New York Times was the only game in town.
Absolutely.
Much more achievable. When I hear best selling, I'm just like, yeah.
Another one. Yeah.
But when I hear award winning, I don't think, yeah, because it's still one step removed from out of your control.
Yeah.
You know, like best selling is pretty much in your control nowadays. Amazon best selling.
Yeah.
Not to everybody, but if you know how to do it.
Yeah.
I personally have 3 best selling books, I'm telling you. So
yeah. But yeah, book blast is much within your control. If you're asking an independent person who doesn't know you, or an independent panel that don't know you,
right, it has a very different truthiness to it. If we're going to take a Stephen Colbert word, it has a truthiness to it. So we don't know
The podcast will be back in less than a minute.
Writers, does this ever happen to you? You can't write, though you try and try. Whoa! Writer's block just knocks you down. It doesn't have to be so flinging hard. Join the Mighty Writers Club. We write together up to 5 days a week. We have a coaching and creativity training 2 times a month. You get your writing done in a community. We're with you all the way. Act now. Join us before you end up like her. Be mighty. The Mighty Writers Club. Find us at go.decodingcreativity.com/mighty. So we don't know how big that award is or whatever, but it's still just being award winning, having that little seal for your Amazon page. And if you're award winning in multiple ways, you know, you're going to keep getting other people's attention. Yeah. So these things build too. If you already are the XYZ award winner, the new award board is going to look at you a little differently, and they probably have a pile that they cannot read carefully. So these things build, I imagine.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Talking out of my head. So, but
no, I imagine it's cumulative. I do, and it, you know, and you could also possibly say it's a bit Emperor's New Clothes, but fair enough. If people want to believe what other people have read in something, then that's fine. If that, as you say, picks you
that is all of book sales. All of book sales is the Emperor's New Clothes, right? I see it. It's a brilliant book. You know, it's reviews. It's a publisher's, you know, validation. If you go traditionally published, it's an agent's validation before that. It's, you know, newspaper coverage or podcast coverage or all those things. It's all the Emperor's New Clothes, except that in essence, we may have crafted invisible clothes this time. You know what I'm saying? It's not the Emperor's New Clothes is a big collective error, whereas this is not necessarily a big collective error, right? It's just gets our attention because he's me.
Yeah. And that's it. It's about, yeah, but it is about that kind of opportunity to stand out amongst quite a crowded, because everyone's written at least a book these days, it would seem. So
I don't think that's true. I have a lot of admiration for somebody who's written a book. It is itself a big undertaking and a dedication and rewrites, and it takes a lot of time. I mean, your book didn't, you act as if it was like writing a blog post, but I'm sure that's not true, right? It was.
No, it wasn't, and I think the emotional.
It's not award winning because it's not award winning because you tossed it off.
No,
it took effort and time and consideration and also commitment, dedication. Like you really had to care about that book in a strong and serious way, you know. So.
The other thing about when you are submitting to these competitions is it's fairly straightforward, but it's rarely cookie cutter. You do need to then craft what you're saying about yourself, craft your bio to meet their needs. You sometimes have to write a synopsis, and that synopsis could be 150 words or 500 words or whatever it is. So it does take a little bit of effort from that point of view, and you have to treat it, and I treat it a little bit like a job application. So if you're applying for a job, you wouldn't just chuck your CV in the same covering letter to every single agency or every single employer. You'd tailor it, wouldn't you? And that's again something to do with these if you are putting yourself forward for a competition. So it's the usual things of follow the instructions, do as you're told, make it easy for them to shortlist you, provide everything they ask for, make sure your contact details are correct. And these all seem like very, very basic things, but again, I'm sure they lose a certain amount of people because they don't follow the instructions or they don't do as they're asked. So make sure you get the most out of your submission fee, basically.
And also, I think what's baked into that, which writers should have, but don't always when it comes to marketing, put yourself in the reader's shoes. Yeah. We have it when we're creating characters in a world because it's what we're creating. But when we're marketing, often we're not creating. What we're doing is trying to meet a mark. And trying to meet a mark is in and of itself boring, right? So, or dull, or not exciting from the reader's point of view. I don't even mean for you. It might be great fun for you. But if you don't put yourself in the reader's shoes, and in this case, that's somebody who's giving an award. Yeah. You know, that's marketing. That's 100% what marketing is. And we do it all the time when we're writing our books, and we neglect to do it when we're marketing. Like, just think of the reader. If you're writing a book, you're holding the reader by the hand and leading them through page by page. You're making sure you didn't lose them on this transition, or they understand about this plot twist. We don't take that same sensibility and dedication to marketing. And so when you think of somebody, maybe it's because we feel like they're going to hate it, and that just blocks any empathy you have for the award reader, right? Maybe it's fear that blocks our empathy and our connection to that person. But you need to literally summon a connection to those people and think, how can I serve them? In the same way you would as a writer. How can I serve my reader? And in your case, you're saying, do what they say. That's service, right? Don't give them a cookie cutter. Give them what they need to make it easy for them. And that is literally the same as writing a book. You're thinking of your reader in an empathetic and compassionate way. And you're expecting them to love you when you're writing a book. So when you're writing your awards, you should expect them to love you because it brings the feelings that you need to present yourself well. Yeah. Does that seem true? I've never done an award, so I don't know for sure. I've done a lot of marketing though. That's what I feel is the big disconnect from writing a book to marketing a book is you get this big fear wall. You neglect to think of your reader, even though it's the most basic thing in the world when you're writing.
The obvious thing. Yeah, true.
Okay, but also just because I'm a stupid baby, I'm still on CV. I really like such a stupid baby. I'm like resume. I can't say a word. I can't think about what she's talking about. I've lost all concentration.
Right, so take 5 minutes when you're writing a resume for a job application. Yeah,
I'm just saying. I'm just so basic. That's where my head goes. That's where my head gets stuck. Did she say CV?
Can I Google it? Will she notice if I Google it?
Right, like I zone out like an 8-year-old. Anyway, okay. So look for your award listings on Google.
Yeah.
What was the name of the association?
It's Book Award Pro. If you Google Book Award Pro, you will easily find
and then
it.
just like Harrow or FM Matchmaker, they'll just put things in your box and you can respond to them.
Yeah.
Harrow is for
Yeah,
being quoted on in news. You know, there's people asking for quotes on various subjects. Help a reporter out.
Yeah.
FM Matchmaker is if you are looking for podcast guest opportunities. But
yeah, I'm on Matchmaker FM. Yeah, it sounds like a dating site, doesn't it? But it's not.
It's like a dating. It's like a matchmaker for these services, which is great. You've got so this is called Book Award Pro. Yeah. So and then the next thing is find ones in your niche. Don't try and go for best book ever. Go for best book in my niche. You know, some of us are very niched. And then keep your reader in mind. Serve them. Give them exactly what they want. That makes it easy for them. Think about what they need to hear to understand your work. What is it they need to hear that gives the uniqueness of your work? You know, sometimes that's hard to have perspective on, but if you can take that other person's brain on instead of your own, it actually helps. You can go, oh, they don't even know that it's funny, or they don't even know that I have tips, or you know what I'm saying? Sometimes that will free you of this incredible immersion you have with your work by just putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and saying, what do they need to know in a limited way?
Yeah.
Very cool. So I'm excited that you've been winning. I'm going to win awards.
You are. One useful tip. They're usually time bound, so there's usually a deadline, and quite often, the fee, it'll be cheaper to do an early bird. So try and not leave it till the last minute, because the fee will be staged.
Just lost me again. I'm all last minute all the time. No, not necessarily, but I hear you. If you can do early bird,
get ahead of yourself, and then you have to then just be patient, because you might submit something now and they don't make the judgment until September, October, and just be patient. Just be patient.
It's nice that you said you had irons in the fire, and that's a nice feeling. Like, it isn't that you need to know if you got that award or not, because it's just gravy, but it is nice to know I've got irons in the fire. I could be having big announcements in October. Did you win any recently?
The most recent one was the Page Turner, which was the one in the summer, and that was that long list from there.
And so what did you do when you got that? How did you use that to market?
Yeah, so I mainly did some posts on social media. I mentioned it obviously when I was being interviewed for other activities. Changed the blurb on my website, made sure the badge was there. And actually, one thing I would say, and it's a mistake I made in designing my book cover. This sounds really sort of really presumptuous, but I'd advise you in designing a book cover, leave a gap for a seal. Leave a gap.
How big is that seal?
They're normally sort of like a circle or an oval around, I don't know, an inch probably wide.
I was going to say, you don't have to run it as big as they love a 3-inch piece of.
To advertise them, obviously. But I would, if I was designing this again, I'd leave a little bit more of a gap for a seal, which sounds very presumptuous.
It does. We don't have presumption. But I don't know where. I guess I could put it here.
Put it there. Yeah. It would look beautiful there. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait. You know, there's a book I loved when I was young, when my kids were young, really. I was just younger. But it was Dumb Bunnies by David Pilkney, I think is the name. But anyway, Dumb Bunnies was the book. And the book had on the cover of it, this book is too dumb to win awards, but it was a gold seal.
Yeah.
I just thought that is so good. I have to steal that someday, but maybe I don't have to now. Maybe I'll just get an award. I was thinking on this one of my thoughts on this one, because was I would just put a seal here and say, I wrote my own award. Anyway, all right. Well, it is really lovely. And I think award submissions and award winning is an incredible distinction that people can get for themselves and do for themselves. And I really think it's overlooked. We all think about best selling, and that's why we all have that. And that's why it loses value. Yeah. But I think award winning is not losing value. I think people are feeling like, ooh, that's the real sauce, you know? So, so at any rate, I really applaud you for that. I'm grateful to share this with our writers. And I'm so getting an award. I can't wait to say, I was talking to Victoria, in February of 2023 when, in that very day, well, it won't be today. That very month.
I
got
submit
six
it and I
submissions.
would. Yeah, definitely.
Anyway,
Go for it.
also wonderful. So thank you for sharing with us. Any last words or anything you think people ought to know about?
No, I just going back to what you were saying before about sort of feeling like you can't do this or you shouldn't do this, and all you're focused on is the writing. Just be mindful that you're writing it because you want to get your story out there, whether that's a fictional story or whether that's a story about real life.
Yeah.
So do have a mind to that kind of marketing, and I'd go for it and put
I do
yourself
think
out there.
I don't think there's a writer in the world who doesn't want to be read. Even Emily Dickinson would probably have liked her poem snuck out and read by others. But but that doesn't mean we somehow allow ourselves to presume that. That maybe feels more presumptuous than thinking awards.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but I think that the but if you can put yourself in the brain of did you see that movie Being John Malkovich?
Yeah.
Where they put on a mask or something and all of a sudden they are in John Malkovich's life. If you could empathize, pull on the head of any one reader, any group of readers, any people who need your book, you don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to like your book. You're helping them by talking about the things you're talking about. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Wonderful. I really enjoyed our talk today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Hey, thanks for listening. If you liked it, please subscribe and tell your friends. What did you learn today? What was your takeaway? What are you going to do today? Put it in the comments. We all want to know. Meanwhile, get my book, Write Without the Fight. You want to master your creative process so you can write with more ease and satisfaction. The links are all in the description box. Join us, because writers are the best weirdos.